Welcome, my name is Tishara and this is StarMade. In last episode we started our factory ship build. We got a fair bit of the outer hull done and some of the interior mapped out, at least the entrances for most of the docking bays, and sort of mapped out how big they are going to be inside. But yeah, we've got a fair bit of outer hull work still to do because it doesn't really have the hull of the front, and the bottom and the back of the ship are not done either. So we still have a fair bit of work to do. So let's continue with that. To get the front part of the ship done, I started to add this storage container section on the front over here. This is basically a whole bunch of round storage containers for liquids. That's the idea, at least. I do want to add some sort of movable arm connecting all these round containers to basically pump the liquid within these containers, and perhaps if them pumped onto a station or another ship to transport them to a different destination. So that's what this section is basically about. It's not only connecting the round containers here, but also to add a structural element for this arm, swinging arm I want to add. Also completed this section for, but basically it's going to be the hangar bay for the worker bees a bit more. So closed off the hull. Still not sure what I want to do on the side here, but the overall shape of this section is now done. I am playing with the details a bit. It's going to be the same at the bottom, so already got a bit of that done as well, but it still needs a bit more detailing and a bit more finishing on the side. So this is the docking arm, or loading arm as I'm calling it, that I built to connect to these round containers over here. And then we've got this docking point in the front over here that a ship can dock to. So basically I can now swing this arm because there's a docking point over here now. Basically swing it from the ship all the way that way, so it can basically connect to a station or a different ship or whatever it needs to connect to basically transport all the fluids it's harvested from all the wrecks, so basically fuel and things like that, or water. Inside these docking arms I've got these pipes over here, so as you can see here I tried to make them actually connect to the different docking points that connect to the round containers. So you've got more arms going in here and then going every which way to make it fit. Then we've got 4 of those connecting to the rotation point, and of course one right in the middle that connects to the docking point all the way at the end. So it looks functional. Isn't really functional at the moment, but I am planning to basically connect everything to as you can see here, a storage unit. So it could theoretically transfer cargo from this arm to the main ship and vice versa. So yeah, I'm hoping that that works, but I think there's still an issue with permissions that you need to give when something docks. So see if that works or not. So I finished the connection section to the main hull of the ship for this docking arm. So now it's properly connected to all the superstructure of the ship itself. And if you look close over here, I've got this secret door that doesn't really show that clearly, because behind this is the logic for this arm. So basically I've got a lot of remote connections. Basically I've got some notes over here what they do, but the main part I can show you is this button over here. Then it makes the arm swing out, and now it's in the open position, so it basically can connect to whatever ship or station it needs to connect to, or basically also a way to remove these containers if they could be removed, but they're basically fixed to the ship as I built them. It's not docked entities or anything. And then you can put something else in place, and then basically close up the arm again when you're done, and then it connects to the containers again. So this basically, completes the front end of the ship, except for a lot of details I still need to add, but it gives you a bit of an overview of how this ship is going to look. So it's a very symmetrical ship in the back, but not symmetrical in the front at all. So you got different things on each side. And I think because I added these containers in this arm at the right side of the ship, that it basically balances out this big docking area for the worker bees, because that's a bit more massive than the areas I've got on the other side. So yeah, I think I quite like this look, how this turned out. So I'm trying to see if I can continue that with the rest of the ship as well, especially the below part over here and the bottom part, because like I said, I still need to add a lot of details to make it a bit more interesting. One of the things I also added is this big crane here in the middle. So this is my main crane. That's sort of the same size if you compare it with the cranes on the side, but because it's a bit more bulkier, it looks bigger, and it is a bigger grabber at the end over here. So this is basically our main robotic arm to grab larger pieces of debris. And basically the idea is that you would grab a large piece of debris and then basically bring it down to this docking bed over here, and then you can basically dock it to the ship, and then worker bees come in to slice it up into smaller pieces, and then you can move it, the smaller pieces to the docking base over here to basically render down to usable components, if that is what you want. You can also use it, of course, for an external docking bay for a ship in general, but it's mainly for docking large pieces of debris to render them down to smaller pieces. That's the plan, at least. Added some additional detailing to this section as well, so I'm working still on this docking area, trying to cut away some of the green hull to add some more gray, because it was a bit too much of the green. Just trying to break up the monotony. Also started to work on the bridge slightly, just adding the some side areas to this bridge section to see how I can basically extend the bridge section to the side to add some more space for basically command space. But I'm not sure at this stage how I'm going to do that, so that's why I'm working on both ends of the ship. But it's slowly getting together with the detailing. At this stage, I started working on adding the side sections to the bridge part of the ship, just to make it a bit bigger. And I'm really started to experiment with what I really want with this section. I started adding these window partitions here. Didn't really work out for me. Then started adding some armor lathes, see if that worked for me. But I was a bit struggling with what I really wanted with this section, because I still need to connect this to the main body of the ship as well, and then continue this on to the back where the engines are going to be. So this was a bit of a struggle for me. So there's a couple of iterations I took with this bridge design. I eventually ended up with this second iteration, just to make these sections a bit wider, and then I indicated that I wanted something to be here, but not exactly what. So sort of wingy bit or something like that. Then we have cut this section connecting to basically the roof section of the main bridge. So we still need to add that and connect the bottom of this thing to the main hull. But this is mainly what I ended up with using, and then adding a lot more of detail for everything, of course. In the meantime, I also worked a bit more on this section, adding details, as you can see here. And I also ended up adding a docking point for turrets. I'm not going to add turrets to the ship, but I am going to add a couple of turret hard points that you can use to add a AMS system, very basic AMS system to the ship if you really want. But it's going to be basically sold or delivered without the turrets included. So there's one here at the top and then one here at the bottom. The same location, basically is mirrored top and bottom. And then I'm probably going to add one in the back by the bridge or something like that, and at the bottom of the ship as well. So we've got 4 turret hard points for very, very basic AMS if needed. One of the main things I have been focusing on is the exterior of the ship, but I don't forget the interior of the ship either. As you can see here, and as you've probably seen in the beginning of the episode as well, I did block out the space for the docking areas, but this has a big influence on the rest of the interior of the ship as well, because I still have this big area where these AI ships are basically delivering and taking the containers from, that I already know this hangar space needs to be blocked out as well. So it's a very weird setup, because this is basically starting on this floor, and then the hangar space of the docks over here is one deck below that, but it's basically halfway between the two. But this is something I can use because the entrance for these docks is on this level. So if I basically exit this dock here at this level, I'm below the main docking level over here with the cargo that's lifted out. So I've got a lot of space below it that I can use for basically processing whatever is basically processed or brought in here, and then add some sort of cargo elevator or something like that to the upper level to transport the goods to some other destination. At this stage, I started working on adding more to the main hull of the ship itself, and I didn't initially know what I wanted to do with this space. Basically, the connecting hull from the bridge connected to this main hangar bay, and then below these extended bridge sections. But I came up with this idea to fill up this space. Basically, what this idea is to have a sort of cargo pod connected to the main hull, and this is what inside the cargo pod. You might say, okay, what is this exactly? This is basically a frame that holds scanner drones, and if you go in here, we can see one. Is a very small, cute scanner drone. So we've got 3 scanner drones, at least space for that, within a single pod. And then the idea is to have a number of pods on each side of the ship, and then you can release those scanner drones and use them to basically extend your scanner range within a debris field. So if you were looking for specific wrecks or valuable commodities that you can find in some sort of space debris field, that's what you use those scanner drones for. This basically scan every wreck you see or cut through interference that's so a battlefield like that might have. And as you can see here, I did connect them to the the ship itself, so it's docked entity, so they can open. And then we've got this shootout rail, at least it's going to be a shootout rail that basically shoot out the scanner drones that you want for that specific pod. So I need to connect up a whole lot of logic to make that work. I think I remember saying in the first episode that I wanted to basically keep down the docked entity count for this ship. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. If I look at these scanner drone pods that I added, it's 3 per pod, so 3, 6, and 9 is already 18, because I've got the same amount on the other side. That's going to add a whole lot of docked entities to this ship. Also started adding more of the main hull out the back over here, but I'm still struggling a bit more how I want to continue this and how I'm going to connect it to this extended section of the bridge, and of course how I want to detail it. But it is started to look like something, so I am progressing. So the front of the ship looks very complete at the moment. You can see that it is actually quite a big ship at the moment, and then not even at the max size it's allowed to be, because I believe that was 600 meters, and this is not going to reach that. Not with the engine layout I've got planned. So yeah, I'm below the max size, but it's still a very sizable ship. When I'm building a ship and I'm struggling with some sort of section of the ship design that I'm not really sure about, then I basically switch to a different section of the ship I am sure about what I want to build. So I wasn't exactly sure how I want to continue the bridge section, so I started working on this docking section for our worker bees, and I basically came up with this design over here for a docking bay for one of the worker bees, and then basically the idea is to copy it around a bunch of times for each docking or docked worker bee. And then we've got basically this space here for our entrance and exits lines over here for the worker bees. So the idea is to have this worker bee enter the docked area with this line over here, so it won't interfere with the shoot out rail over here for the worker bees that exit the ship. So basically they have this cross pattern that they continue when they exit on this line and then go to the red line and then exit. So they have the least amount of time that they can collide with each other. So I'm quite happy with this design. Perhaps some slight modifications here and there, but I think I'm going to copy it around, I think 10 times it was, and then this section should already look a bit more put together for an interior. And here we go. Now we've got all 10 sections in place with all the worker bees docked and all the logic in place. And I'm not going to explain how the logic exactly works, but you get a glimpse over here. It's basically a copy-paste job of each section is a self-contained logic circuit that does everything it needs to do. So basically what happens is you press a button like this, not like this, like this, and the worker bee exits the docked area, and then it basically turns around and then goes to the exit line over here and then exits the ship itself. It also has logic to detect when it comes back to see which of the docked areas is empty, and then it goes there and docks. So that is also something it takes into account. So there's no way these things collide with each other or try to go to the same docking space. It's all basically arranged to fix that. Yeah, I'm quite happy how this interior docking space turned out. I still have a bit of work to do because I think I did design these sections, but I think they're a bit too busy at some of the points, so I'm still going to tweak that a bit. And there's still some other things I need to do to connect it to the rest of the interior. But yeah, like I said, I'm working on the multiple spaces in the ship design itself. So sometimes it's a bit more interior, especially for spaces like this, because I know how to connecting to the outside. And sometimes it's a bit more on the exterior, like the bridge design, that I'm still working on and still not being all too clear what I want to do with the rest of the connection. But yeah, that's basically the way I work. It's never interior or exterior exclusively. It's always a bit of a mix of both. And mainly exterior with the connections to areas that are connected to the outside of the hull. Finally finished up the side of this front section and added some of the detailing I wanted. I really liked how this turned out, and I added this little cute antenna array over here that has a bit of logic behind it, because why not? So if you turn it on, then it basically will rotate on the timer in one direction. As you can see here, it rotates up and then rotates down, and then does the other way around as well. So it basically does that every so often, as if it is searching for some signal or scanning for something else, debris of course. So yeah, this turned out quite to my liking. So this is basically finishing up the front of the ship this way. Quite nice to see as well a bit of detailing. I added this detailing here at the front over here on this section. Then if you go to the bottom, then you can see that the detailing there is slightly different. So there is some difference between the top and bottom of the ship as well. And I started adding detailing and some more hull to basically get the bottom of the ship done as well. But that's something I have to continue. One last thing I wanted to show. I still haven't finished the bridge completely here, but I did add some of the detailing on top with these antenna arrays and these radar domes. And I'm working on the layout of the engines over here. And what I want to do, I want to see if I can add some of those engine pods at an angle over here. That's something I always wanted to do, so I think it's a good thing to try on this ship, because that might make the engine look very interesting, at least the engine arrays. But I think that's something for a different episode, because it's going on long enough for this one. But as you can see here, this ship is really taking shape. Quite happy with it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.